So you hopefully got a first picture of what Node.js is and why you use it and what you use it for. Now, typically, and also what we will do in this course, you use Node.js to run it on a server, to write server-side code. And for that, we have to have a look at the full picture. We have our users using a client, computer with a browser, their mobile phone with a browser, even mobile apps, and we will come back to how Node.js can communicate with these later in the course too. But for now, let's stick to the traditional browser picture. We got our users using their browser, and there we can use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in the browser to create web pages, right? Now, they visit a page, mypage.com, and they send a request to do so. For example, by entering a URL in the browser, a request is sent to that URL. Now, there, the server comes into play. We got our server, some computer running in the internet, which has the IP associated with that domain, which is automatically resolved for us. And on that server, we then want to execute some code that does something with the incoming request and returns a response. Often, but not necessarily always, as you will learn, this response is a HTML page, which the browser then in turn can display. By the way, it is not necessarily just HTML. It's also things like CSS files or JavaScript files with JavaScript code for the browser, not for the server. Now, on the server, we typically do tasks that we can't or don't want to do from inside the browser for performance or security reasons. We connect to databases, for example, to fetch and store data. We do user authentication, which we obviously can only do on a place the user can't access to make it more secure and avoid it being hacked. We do it for input validation to see if a user entered the correct email address. The browser can always be tricked. Users can even edit their browser-side code. You can open the developer tools and start working on that page you're on. But the server is, of course, sheltered from that. The user can't access it. And in general, we have our business logic on the server. Everything our users shouldn't see, which takes too much time to run in the browser, where we obviously want to deliver a fast user experience, or anything of that kind. And that is where we use Node.js. So also JavaScript code, but this time not on the browser, but on the server. And this is where we use the many features Node.js gives us. And this is how we indirectly allow our users to work with the server through that request-response pattern. The direct access is not available. So this is how we will use Node.js in this course also. We will use it to write code on the server that returns data our users, our clients, can work with. Now, one important side note at this point of time. Node.js is not limited to running code on a server. It's a JavaScript runtime, and you even saw a first demo which did not do anything where we needed a browser, right? We didn't spin up a server there. We didn't do anything which we would have reached through a browser. We'll do that a lot throughout the course, but we haven't done it thus far. Because it's just a JavaScript runtime, we can execute any JavaScript code with Node.js. And often that is code that runs on a server and is executed upon incoming requests. But you also often use Node.js for other code. For example, for local utility scripts or build tools. If you worked with, let's say, React or Angular or Vue or anything of that kind, you actually used Node.js indirectly a lot for all the build processes these languages or frameworks needed. Because Node.js is a great tool for writing utility scripts. You have access to the file system, so you can write and read and manipulate files. And this allows you to do a lot of utility stuff on your computer that is never exposed to the public. And I just want you to know that, and I'll even have a section in this course where I dive a little bit more in such build tools and non-server-side language usages of Node.js. In general, and that is the most popular thing you do with Node.js though, you use it in the context of web development and server-side code. So you use it to run a server, and actually, and that is an important difference to PHP, for example, with Node.js, you don't just write the code that is running on your server, you also write the server yourself. So the code that takes the incoming requests and routes them to your well, other code. In PHP, you have extra tools like Apache or Nginx, which run the servers, which listen to incoming requests and then execute your PHP code. Here, Node.js does both. It does that listening, and it then also does whatever you want to do in your code. So that's important, and that's something you'll see in action soon. We also use it, or we therefore also use it, to run all our business logic. So not just to listen to incoming requests, but to then work with the request data, work with files, work with databases, all that fun stuff Node.js is capable of, and we'll do all that in this course, obviously. And we also handle the response side, not just incoming requests. You will also learn how you use Node.js to send back data to your clients, be that HTML pages with dynamic content, or data only in the format of JSON or XML or even files. So this is what we use in Node.js and what we will dive heavily into in this course. Alternatives to Node.js would be things like Python, also with frameworks like Flask or Django, or PHP with frameworks like Laravel maybe, or standalone vanilla PHP of course. And more, ASP.NET, Ruby on Rails, all that stuff. This basically are all replacements for Node.js, or Node.js can be a replacement for them. And there is no clear winner. All these languages are capable of doing the same kind of stuff. And of course, they differ in some technical regards. But in general, it's great to have that broad variety. The huge advantage, or one huge advantage of Node.js, is that it uses JavaScript, a language which you need so much in modern web development, for all the front-end, for some build tools. And if you then can also use it on the server side, you don't need to learn a bunch of different languages. You can use one and the same language and then use that for your server-side code too. This is why Node.js is a great language to learn. You get so much efficiency out of it. It's also a highly performant and popular language. There are so many jobs out there for Node.js. There never was a better time to learn it. It's used in so many environments, also for a lot of cutting-edge stuff. But in general, Node.js is a great solution. It's trending, it's fast, it's efficient, and it makes sure that you only need to learn one language to write all the code you need in a modern web application.